Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, plans underway for a meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. It could be a window of opportunity to end the war with Hamas, free the hostages, and work for peace in the region. Plus, managing the effects of trauma, individuals tell their stories in a new book. And CBN partners support a resilience center for Israelis needing a helping hand. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Julie Stahl. President Trump is pushing for a ceasefire in Gaza as the battle over Gaza aid continues. Talks between Israel and Syria for an end to hostilities are reportedly making progress. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu is heading to Washington next week. Here's the latest on these stories. Iran and Gaza will reportedly be the main topics of discussion when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet with President Trump at the White House next Monday for the third time this year. Trump wants to finish the war in Gaza, preferably within days, but Netanyahu is sticking to his requirements on how the war must end: Hamas freeing all the hostages, laying down its weapons, and giving up power in Gaza. So far, Hamas seems unwilling to agree to any of that.
They continue to refuse to lay down their arms or to free the remaining hostages, including the remains of 2 Americans.
Even some Europeans admit Hamas has to go for there to be a real peace in Gaza.
Let me be clear, Hamas must not be part of Gaza's future.
Also in Gaza, the IDF is admitting it has killed civilians trying to get food at the aid sites run by the American-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. But the IDF says those killings were accidents that happened while trying to control chaotic crowds, and they weren't sure who were civilians and who Hamas terrorists. The State Department points out the IDF is trying to figure out exactly why the killings took place.
The IDF and Israel have announced that they are, of course, investigating certain incidents.
The IDF reports it's made changes around the food distribution sites to help bring down the chaos that has led to violent confrontations. And Israel is blaming the United Nations, which wants to shut down the foundation, for fomenting some of that chaos.
Many in the UN are actively spreading disinformation promoted by Hamas-controlled sources, defaming the GHF's work and providing cover for further attacks.
Meanwhile, Israel is having hopeful and direct and daily contact with Syria, which could lead to an end of hostilities after decades, but would fall short of a full peace agreement. Israel is eager to make that happen.
We have an interest in adding countries such as Syria and Lebanon, our neighbors, to the circle of peace and normalization.
But a sticking point could be the Golan Heights. Syria threatened and terrorized Israel from there for nearly 2 decades. Israel gained control of those biblical heights during the 1967 Six-Day War and has developed it since then. In 2019, President Trump recognized Israeli sovereignty over the strategic plateau.
In any peace agreement, the Golan will remain part of the state of Israel.
In the aftermath of the 12-day war with Iran, the question on everyone's mind is what's next for the people inside Iran, and will the truce between Israel and Iran hold? One Israeli Arab influencer is saying that the threat from Iran will continue until the regime is dealt with, like the Allies dealt with the Nazis after World War II. Take a look. As both Israel and the U.S. hail the great victory over Iran and its nuclear program in the 12-day June war, many Israelis are uneasy and feel there's more to be done.
Make no mistake, the IDF won big time. Big time. What we did in the last 12 days is unprecedented. It's unbelievable. It is one of the greatest victories of our country and our IDF. But the fact is that we have not completed the job.
Israeli journalist and advocate for Israel, Yoseph Haddad, says the Iranian regime is proud of targeting Israeli civilians, which shows why they must be destroyed and not just weakened. Haddad spoke to CBN News at the site of the Iranian missile attack in Beersheba, in which 4 Israelis were killed around the time the ceasefire was declared. He likened the current situation to Europe at the end of World War II.
Imagine if in World War II, America and Britain and its allies said, you know what, we won, but we're not going to eliminate completely the Nazis and destroy Hitler. We're just going to keep him as weak as he is. Do you think Hitler would neglect his final solution? It's exactly what the IRGC and the Ayatollah is the same thinking, which means they're not neglecting their last solution. And their last solution is to arrive at a nuclear bomb in order for them to destroy the little devil and to reach the big devil, which is the United States.
At the end of World War II, Germany surrendered unconditionally, and the Allied forces divided the country into 4 zones. German leaders and military officials were tried for war crimes at Nuremberg. The Allies also worked to change the ideology.
What we're doing here right now is actually fighting for the whole free world, for the whole Western world. And we're putting the Israeli civilians in danger doing so. Continue fighting the IRGC, eliminating the IRGC, free the Iranian people, and bring security to Israeli civilians, both Arabs and Jews.
Meanwhile, Israel police spokesman Dean Elsden says the police are working proactively to thwart Iranian attempts at drafting spies and getting information inside Israel.
We have over 23 cases of indictments for espionage where Iranians are trying to use civilians here in Israel through financial ways, offering them money to complete seamlessly simple tasks by sending pictures, sending locations, and then it works its way up to even assassination attempts in providing information of sensitive areas.
Elsden told CBN News that Israel police are on top of it and are working to secure Israel's borders. The speed of the news cycle these days, which is 24 hours, has created an appetite in the modern viewer for quick solutions. Our next guest, Eric Mandel, spoke with Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell a while back about why the West's expectation for speed doesn't apply to Middle East cultures. This interview was just as Operation Gideon's Chariots was starting 2 months ago, but it's as relevant as ever.
Eric Mandel, great to be with you. Right now, Israel has begun what they call Gideon's Chariots, an attempt to literally defeat Hamas finally, end the war, and sort of take over more and more territory in Gaza, as well as try to free the hostages. What's your sense about this operation, and will it lead to perhaps what people say the day after?
So the question about having a day after is, what will the state of Hamas be? Then you can plan a day after. If the president is going to make a deal to get all the hostages out, but Israel will have to end its operation, have to withdraw from its 1 kilometer buffer zone protecting the envelope communities of Gaza, remove themselves from the Philadelphia corridor, the spigot of arms that came from Egypt to resupply. The day after is going to be very different how you're going to plan for it. But if you say that you want a totally disarmed and Hamas, and a Hamas that is not a governing entity, people can't handle the truth, as the old American movie said. Why? Because it's going to take years. It's not going to take weeks, and even the Israelis say, well, maybe it'll take a few months. It's going to take longer. There is still huge amounts of the tunnel network that is there. There's still probably at least 17,000 armed Hamas fighters, not counting what they have recruited. And so what Israel is going to have to do is take over areas, not withdraw, but occupy them, hold them. The international community will be furious, but Israel is going to have to create a situation to reopen those communities one by one that are without Hamas. It will take years. It will be maybe half a degree of separation from what we see in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, where Israel goes in every day and night since the end of the Second Intifada, 20-ish years ago, that extracts terrorists, stops terror attacks. Probably for every 200 terror attacks that are planned, maybe one gets through from from Judea and Samaria that comes out, that's there, that Israel doesn't stop. And Israel's going to have to do that again in Gaza, and eventually has to transform. And the reason why America doesn't want to do that, the international community doesn't want to do that, in the international community there's a lot of, if you will, anti-Zionism is the okay way of being anti-Semite, but it takes time. And we don't have, we in the West, especially in America, my country, don't have strategic patience. Our enemies, our adversaries, which to my mind, 95% are coincident with Israel's adversaries, they have strategic patience. We think in days, weeks, months. They think in decades and centuries. If I talk to a college student about something that happened in 2014, it might well have been 1776. When Erdogan in Turkey talks to his people about something that happened 800 years ago, they understand. They think, it's not being condescending, they think differently. We need to be patient. And unfortunately, we have presidents, Democrats and Republicans, who want quick victories, want to have a legacy, but sometimes it's at the expense of the interests of the United States national security in the long run. And I would advise, if I was advising the president, is to be patient, to see where we have leverage on Iran. And if we don't have something to advance American interests, you got to say, okay, I'm not going to be able to call that for a win, because what's going to happen in time, it's not going to look like a win. You could blame it on your predecessor or the person who follows you, but it's going to be blamed on you if the deal you made falls apart. Even if it's not on your watch, but it happened on your watch, that deal. We need strategic patience. We don't have it, and in a polarized country, that's difficult. So I was just on South Korean television, and they're worried, and I said, have unity. And I tell the Israelis, have unity. But we Americans, we need to have some more unity and look at each other, look at somebody as a human being, that we disagree, but I see you as a person. We don't have that anymore. Respectful discourse. We need to come together, and that's how you get a better foreign policy.
Great analysis. Eric Mandel, thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Our bureau chief, Chris Mitchell, is on assignment, but before he left, he spoke with Yal Carmon from the Middle East Media Research Institute. The subject came up about ethnic minorities within Iran and the role they could have in the future. Here's that conversation.
I'm joined in our studio with Yal Carmon, the founder of Memory. You do so much for the world to inform what's happening, and you make a point that a lot of people don't realize. There are four main ethnic minorities inside Iran that is being subjugated by the regime, and you would like to see them free and independent.
Of course, this is the only solution. I would advise the president, if I may, not to make Iran great again, because that means to make the Japanese of World War II great, or the Nazis, or the other crazy, ambitious regimes of the world, dictatorial regime. No, make Iran free again of this regime. Make Iran small again, to be just Persians. That's who they are. And all the other minorities that are ethnic minorities, that are subjugated, occupied, ruled, killed by this regime, should become free. Once Iran is free of this, and they are free, then there will be peace.
Yeah, so Iran is mainly 50% Persia, 50% of these other ethnic groups. What are these four groups, and how can they be free?
Yeah, the Baloch, number one, in the east. And they are a nation of themselves, and they have movement. They are secular. And there are some groups, minor groups, that are not, but the majority is secular. And they are a nation of itself, and they deserve to be free. And then there are the Ahwazis. They are Arab in the south of Iran. And they are more connected to Iraq in a way. And they are controlling, so to speak, all the resources of oil. Are in the area of the Ahwazis. And then you have the Kurds on the west side. And the Kurds are quite known because they are a nation with people in Iraq, in Syria, in Turkey. And then there are the Azeris, who are more close to Azerbaijan than to Iran, than to these Persians who rule everybody as an empire. So Iran is an empire because of its ambitions, and it's great because of its ambitions to occupy and rule other nations. Once this stops, once they are supported, these ethnic minorities, by the West, by the liberal West, to be free, then Iran will also become, in its normal size, 50% of its population, not 100 million, but 50 million, and will be more civilized and more normal.
Yeah. Well, Yal Carmon, thanks for bringing us a unique perspective on Iran and its future, and we hope Iran can be free again, once again. Thanks a lot, Yal.
Thank you, guys.
Mark Sanders from the Be a Mensch Foundation has helped put together an interesting anthology. It's called Extreme Trauma, October 7th as an Outlier in the Range of Human Potential. It's a collection of essays about October 7th that show the worst and the best of humanity. Chris Mitchell asked him about the book.
And what would you like readers to get out of this? What impact do you want to have on them?
So I describe this book as sort of chiropractically adjusting false narratives. So I want people to take this book, read it, take some talking points from that, share it within their circle of influence. That's really critical. And then there's one other thing I'll just mention parenthetically. You mentioned the Be a Mensch Foundation. So the Be a Mensch Foundation takes polarized Jews in Israel from, let's say, the secular community and the religious community and brings them together to heal a lot of myth perceptions that one group has about the other. So we've been doing this for over 11 years. So this book is partly also to help fund those initiatives of unity that we've been doing with high school students, college students, Air Force pilots, sea-level executives, scouts. We're involved quietly in a number of different areas where we're invited in to have dialogue that leads, I like to say it this way in a grammatical example, we turn they and them into we and us. That's what we do. Yeah. So the book is partly to help fund that. So if everybody would please go get the book, then they could help fund that kind of unity here in this country.
And I should say, Mensch is a Yiddish word that means a really good person, right?
Yes, a person of character. I mean, in German, it just means like man. But the Yiddish nuance of it is someone who's a really decent person.
Yeah, here we are over a year and a half after October 7th. Talk about the depth of resilience of the Jewish people and people here in Israel.
So I guess if you could use one simple analogy to describe the Jewish people, it would be rubber band. You know, we get stretched, and then we snap back to whatever the mean is. And we come away from these experiences, hopefully not bitter, but better. Because I think there's really attitudinally, or from a psychological point of view, those are the two choices that we have. We can become an embittered people or a bettered people through the experience that we went through. And so it's part of Jewish thought, and I heard this described by an old black preacher one time on the radio back in America, where he said, it's a walk through the ages with the sages in the pages. Isn't that brilliant?
Well, that's brilliant.
It's tremendous.
Yeah.
And so some of that wisdom from the pages, the sages in the pages, is to always look for the good, even in that which looks really bad. That, you know, Hashem, God, He runs the world, runs the universe. Nothing's by accident. Everything has purpose. And so if you're a person that lives from the standpoint of faith and not just fate, then you look for that, maybe the somewhat invisible fingerprints, that's the whatever it is, the divine element that's in that situation. And so there are a lot of people in Israel, for example, we've seen this with some of the hostages, God bless them, that have come out of this horrible situation with an amazing new level of faith. We've seen this with soldiers, for example, and this tremendous outpouring of support to give them not just the material or the armament support that they need, but also the spiritual support that they need. And so there's been a galvanizing of Israelis and really from Jewish people around the world and beyond. Your own community has been tremendous. I just have to thank you and Gordon and Michelle and Dr. Nolte, and I want to shout out to Troy Miller and a lot of people around the broadcast who've really brought a lot of people together to make a difference.
So when you read this book, are you going to see divine fingerprints in here as well?
There are faith elements in that book that people get to kind of go spelunking in there to find that. It's definitely in there. Some wonderful, wonderful, I think Douglas Murray's piece in there is tremendous. Also, Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky, Alav Shalom, of blessed memory, we put a piece in there because the book opens with, it's called Outlier in Human Potential. So outlier means you've got two poles here. So the book opens with the worst and then the best. And so we ask people to take a look at that and get those polls and then go through the book to find how do we rebuild after all of this. There was a book written from your community many years ago by Francis Schaeffer called How Should We Then Live? Mm-hmm. Well, this book kind of asks that question. How should we live after what happened? And so I'm encouraging people to go to Amazon. We put it only on Amazon. It's not in bookstores. Why? Because it's partly a fundraiser for the BMensch Foundation to underwrite the programs of unity that we're involved in here. And economically, the spread was better to do it on Amazon. Yeah. So please, go get it.
Mark, great contribution to what's happening after October 7th. Thanks for joining us.
And thanks for all that you guys are doing here in Jerusalem and beyond.
The recent 12-day war put activities throughout Israel on hold. There was no school or large gatherings, and some humanitarian efforts had to be postponed. Thanks to the support from CBN's generous partners, CBN Israel put together a resilience center and had planned for a grand opening. They weren't able to pull that off, but pivoted and kept helping people who needed it.
Hey, let me show you the CBN Israel Community Support and Resilience Center. We were supposed to have the grand opening this week, but because of the escalation in the war, it had to be delayed. However, it doesn't mean we haven't been able to already provide emotional first aid where needed.
As you can see, this center was about to be open and everything is ready, but unfortunately we were forced to cancel the official opening. This is very disappointing because Dr. Olia from Regent University was supposed to come and give several lectures. We had several meetings planned, and due to the situation we were forced to cancel. Our center volunteered and opened a hotline so that people could still call us, receive necessary tools and practical help. We hope that very soon we will be able to reopen the center and have it running with all the programs we have planned. In any case, we continue to do the work. We did it before, we will do it after, but most importantly, we will do it during this war. Even if the physical space is not available, we use other available means. We use Zoom, we talk to people by phone, we are always available. In current situation, we have to be creative. The need keeps constantly growing. People are very confused, they don't know what to do with themselves. We just need to be there for them and encourage them. It's not a good situation. Resilience is very, very important to CBN Israel. It is really important in current situation and has been important over the years, especially since October 7th. People need support, people need encouragement, people need our help, and CBN Israel is fully committed to this work, which is very, very important in order to help people overcome the struggle, keep them strong, and give the necessary help to not fail in the middle of this crisis.
What a wonderful project, giving hope to Israelis. That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on social media, and you can access CBN content through our CBN News and other CBN apps. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and for Israel during this critical time. And remember, the God who's watching over Israel and you and me neither slumbers nor sleeps. I'm Julie Stahl. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.